if some of you guys are training at home, you're in a home gym like I am, or maybe you're just at a gym that has some limited equipment, some of those specialized machines that we like to use may not be available to you. And that is why suspension trainers like TRX straps, or in my case here, gymnastics rings, can be a huge, huge asset to you. So I can't recommend enough making sure you get a set of these, even if you buy them for your gym to have. I think it's a really good idea to always have these on hand. So in the case of this video, this is for a leg curl. Now, in my basement gym here, I don't necessarily have a leg curl machine, nor do I care to take up the space to put one in here. So if I need to do a hamstring curl movement, I'm going to use my gymnastics rings here and do what I would call a TRX leg curl or a suspension trainer leg curl. The way we're going to do that is I'm going to take my ring, I'm going to put my heel on the base of that ring with the bottom of my foot kind of on the top of it. If you're doing a TRX strap, you're going to do the same exact thing. They're going to have that little loop of fabric on the bottom. You're going to set your heel in that and put your foot with the arch kind of over the handle. Now, these rings are a lot harder than those straps on your TRXs, so this is going to hurt me a little bit more. This is one of the rare times where I would say that having barefoot shoes is not beneficial, because they really go minimalistic on the fabric and padding here. Nonetheless, I will suffer for you guys. So, my feet are up in those straps. Something to keep in mind when you do these is the angle of those straps whenever they're hanging straight down. We want those, the farthest that way that we want them to start at neutral is directly in line vertically. I even like to go a little bit outside of that, because as I pull in, that's going to create a little bit more tension here in my hamstrings. And so again, straight up and down to a little bit this way is going to be your starting point. You never want to start with them in this way, because it's just the lines of tension just don't line up with what we're trying to accomplish. So pulling this way a little bit. I'm laying flat. My hands are going to go out to the sides. And from here, just like always, we're going to start by kind of engaging the core a little bit. I'm locking my ribs in, keeping those cylinders stacked, ribs over pelvis. So this stays in line. And the first thing I'm going to do, actually, I'll show you the normal movement, and then I'll show you the regressed version of it that's a little bit easier to start out. So the normal movement is I'm going to drive my heels towards my butt, and as I do that, my hips are going to follow and push up kind of behind me. Now right here, I have a tremendous amount of tension in my hamstrings. I'm holding that, controlling it back down to the floor. Slipping out of my ring now. Told you guys. All right, again, heels drive in, pulling them towards my butt, driving my hips up away from me. And you can see right here, I stay in line, legs, or thighs rather, and torso. Ooh, that's hard to hold. These are tough, guys. These are no joke. One more time. Everything's in line. I'm digging my heels in, pulling my hamstrings, controlling it back out. Now you can see, I consider myself a fairly strong individual. These are very challenging. They hurt. They burn your hamstrings like crazy. So if you're a beginner, I don't expect you to be able to do that right off the bat. So how are we going to progress it? We're going to keep your butt flat on the floor to start. Pull your heels in. Bridge up. And then control it out slow. That negative portion of the rep where you're moving with gravity is always the easier part of the rep. So while it's really hard for me to lift my hips up and pull them in, it's easier if I pull in, lift up, and then control it back out instead. So again, guys, pulling in, letting your heel fall out. We're in, we dig our heels in and lift, and we control it out nice and slow back to the floor. The only last point that I want to make on those is your foot position. Whenever you're doing this, always thinking what we call dorsiflexion, which is a very technical term you guys don't need to know. All that means is I'm pulling my toes towards me rather than this, which is plantar flexion. So I want you thinking I'm pulling my toes towards me whenever I do this movement rather than pushing away. So whenever you see me doing this, you're not going to see my toes like this. You'll see them pulled back. Because that is a suspension trainer, gymnastics ring / TRX band leg curl.